Hello and welcome to the session on pre-primary education in India. Relevance and importance of pre-primary education. Pre-primary education has become popular strategy for protecting dropout of children from formal education all over the world. It would ensure a smooth transition to primary education and lay the foundation for lifelong learning. It is considered to be much important to mold the structure of whole life of a child because the pace of development during the period from 3 to 6 years is extremely rapid. Pre-primary education works as a foundation for inculcating social and personal habits. Educated parents can make ready their children for formal education by themselves. But in case of uneducated, the condition is different. Here comes the most important relevance of pre-primary education. In the present scenario, much importance is being given to the issues of child labor, child malnutrition and education. Such problems are being addressed transnationally and resources are being put together. Research conducted in education field suggests that pre-primary education is important for the development of young children before they enter into the formal schools. Neuroscience studies conducted recently established that experience-based brain development in early years sets neurological and biological pathways that affect health, learning and behavior throughout the life. It helps in cognitive development of children at the early grades of primary education. The positive aspects of pre-primary education can be summarized as follows. Pre-primary education works as a strong bearing on attendance and participation of children once they enter to formal education or primary school. Can be considered as a first step towards entering to the world of knowledge as well as healthy and purposeful life. Can make children more independent and confident. Can promote then all-round development of the children. Prepare children physically, emotionally, socially and mentally for formal schooling. Prevents poor performance and dropout. Help older children, especially girls, to be free from household responsibilities like sibling care. Moreover, the children who had been to pre-primary schooling tend to learn more rapidly through an organized curriculum, learning aids and interaction with other children. The increasing number of nuclear families and lack of family support to look after small kids give an open way to the acceptance of pre-primary education institutions. Quality pre-primary education will promote inclusive education and meaningful access to school education. Through the widespread acceptance of pre-primary education, the enrollment for school education will be increased and vulnerability to failure will be reduced. All classes such as kindergarten, nursery, pre-nursery are considered as pre-primary. Kindergartens are divided into lower kindergarten or LKG and upper kindergarten UKG. Normally, children of age group 3 to 4 are admitted to LKG and 4 to 5 in UKG. In formal education system, pre-primary education is considered as an integral part of regular schools. Therefore, all pre-primary instruction is attached to junior basic or primary schools. Montessori schools also come under pre-primary education system. Status of pre-primary education in India. In India, much of the early child care and education of the child was informal within the family and largely through grandmothers' caring practices, stories during bedtime, lullabies and infant games handed over through generations. This wealth of appropriate childcare practices are vanishing quite fast in the present scenario of nuclear families. In 1946, Mahatma Gandhi asked Madame Montessori, who met him, to Indianize her education system so that it could reach the poorest of the society. Influenced by Montessori's visit to India during the second half of 19th century, Gijubai Bageka and Tarabai Madak, among others, became the pioneers of formal early education in India. Till independence, only voluntary organizations and other private agencies only did the opening and conducting of early childhood education institutions. The first government initiative in this field was setting up of Central Social Welfare Board in 1953, which started granting aid for conducting pre-primary schools. Provisions for early childhood care and education is one among the 6 Education for All (EFA) goals in India. Even though there do not exist any time frame program, the governments are urged to expand access and quality of early childhood care and education or ECCE services. As a part of Constitution commitment itself, the importance of pre-primary schooling has been recognized in India. The 3 broad objectives of ECCE are holistic development of the child to enable him or her to realize their own maximum potential, preparation for formal schooling, and providing support services to women and girls. The 3 important necessities of child development, which steered the evolution of ECCE program in a more integrated form, can be summarized as A child's early experiences and outcomes will determine the extent to which he or she can attain in future. B. A child's cognitive learning is affected by her socio-economic status through the child's health and quality of home environment. C. A child's development gains will be more sustainable if the programs address her family also. Known as the Integrated Child Development Services or ICDS, India introduced perhaps the world's largest program as early as in 1975. This program targets children, pregnant and lactating mothers and adolescent girls from a life cycle perspective. The National Policy of Education 1986 and its Plan of Action 1992 have placed immense importance on preschool education. Anyhow, presently it is not a fundamental right as RTE. Moreover, the pre-primary educational institutions are not owned by central or state governments. Mostly, these are owned by private institutions. It is partially supported by ongoing flagship education program Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which includes a major component of ECCE. The Ministry of Women and Child Development deals with pre-primary education. The Department of Women and Children Development is implementing a scheme which seeks to provide healthcare facilities and supplementary nutritional support. It also intends the improvement of children's communication and cognitive skills as a preparation for entry to primary school. The program mainly targets underprivileged children. The medium of teaching and learning is specified as the mother tongue or regional language. Wherever felt required, English alphabets and basic speaking knowledge of English is being chosen for teaching. In India, private schools and government-run Anganwadis and centers coming under Integrated Child Development Services provide pre-primary education. In addition, there are some ECCE preschools by SSA, Preschools are attached to government as well as private schools. According to the estimates of NCERT in 2005, 7th All India Educational Survey, there are 4,93,700 pre-primary institutions in India. Of these, 4,56,994 are in rural areas. Totally, these schools have 26.453 million children, out of which 12.829 million are girls. Report by District Information System for Education Data 2007-2008. It is observed that enrollment is less in primary schools with pre-primary facilities. The highest percentage of enrollment in pre-primary, that is attached with the primary, is in Madhya Pradesh and lowest in Bihar. Besides these, many non-government organizations are providing pre-primary education in large scale. NIPCCD, or National Institute of Public Cooperation and Child Development, is such a premier organization approved by the Union Government. It has branches throughout India, and researches and seminars are being conducted for the uplift of pre-primary education to enable the weaker sections also avail the facilities to a maximum extent. There is a need to harmonize the activities of all these service providers in accordance with program mandates, standards and legislation. Availability of pre-primary education to different classes of the society. ECCE is now emerging as a significant equity issue in Indian context. Despite remarkable expansion of ICDS program from 8th plan onwards, recent surveys reveal the poor status of children in terms of health and education in our country. More than 60% of the 3 to 6 years old children are not getting the benefit of any kind of preschool education. Affluent families in urban areas where preschools run by private and voluntary agencies are more in number can make their children avail the facility even at 2 years. The more needy children from lower socio-economic strata hailing from impoverished home environments do not have access to any of such institutions. In the government level, pre-primary schools are very less in number since priority is given to primary education. In major cities of India, there is a syndrome of overburdened preschooling whose tight schedules of training and tuitions leave no space for playful learning. This tendency is more among the socially and economically better placed families. This creates an anxiety among the parents about securing admission for their children in proper, well-named schools. In many such schools, admission is given to the children on the basis of rigorous tests and interviews. Therefore, the knowledge in reading, writing and basics of numbers are felt at most important, despite the professed goals of playful learning in preschools. In effect, instead of the upward extension informal playway methods into formal schools, we are faced with an unhealthy downward extension of formalism in preschools. Important consequences faced in the availability of early childhood care and education are sharp contrast in quality between the services available to different segments of population: rural, urban, rich, poor, Dalits, tribals, isolated communities, etc. Distinction between private and public services. Lack of creches and daycare centers. As all are aware, the facilities for all types of education are more in urban areas rather than in rural. The private sector agencies are quite naturally interested to have their roots in urban areas, aiming children from elite families. As mentioned earlier, their fee structure can be afforded by the rich only. The marginalized sections of the society, as the case in all other phases, are neglected here, since the law also does not cover the pre-primary education as a fundamental right. At this juncture, everybody can be happy to know about the steps taken by Union government to address the unmet needs of children in urban slums by giving specific rules to area or town planning authorities. The Act may be amended in the 12th Five-Year Plan. The public sector ICDS centers and Anganwadis are lacking even primary needs in many areas. Even though the amendments in government level give emphasis in funding of such institutions, while materializing many shortcomings are experienced. Still, commendable services are being presented by many of them. The gap between the need and actual provisions remain vast in case of ECCE, even though constitutional directives and plethora of laws, policies and programs are announced time to time. There exist imbalances both at the spatial and social levels, so that some sections are more severely neglected. Implementation and developments in ECCE field. Quality is the most important factor that determines the outcome of any program for children. Studies show that well-designed early childhood programs can make a positive difference to the lives of children. Quality early childhood program must promote healthy and normal physical and psychological development, for which the daily experiences of children are the most important. Worldwide experiments in this regard have identified the basic elements of quality as 1. Curriculum. This should be activity-based, child-centered, age-appropriate, aiming at all-round development, adapted to context, and above all, flexible. 2. Teachers should be motivated and appropriately trained to handle small children. They should be recognized with the status of teachers and decently paid. 3. Ratio and group size should be designed in such a manner to help the adult-child interaction varying with the age of children. 4. Infrastructure should be supportive of the needs of the child, low cost and culture specific. 5. Supervision and monitoring should be with the intention to encourage the attempts of improving quality. In order to involve parents, communities, local authorities in monitoring and promoting quality standards, the first step is the creation of awareness about ECCE. Its prime purpose and nature, as well as the advocacy for quality, should be made clear in their mind. Here, the role of government is very important, especially in providing adequate funds and involving the mass media in promoting positive examples of good practices of ECCE. The poor quality should be given negative publicity and the negative impacts should be highlighted. This can prevent, to a certain extent, the upcoming of private sector pre-primary schools without any prescribed norms as mushrooms. Parents, particularly of upper and lower middle class sections, are increasingly influenced by the mechanical memorization way of teaching of private sector preschools. In public sector, on the other hand, though lip service is paid to the right concepts, there is little understanding of them in practical level. The main reason for this phenomenon can be due to following shortcomings. Teachers are poorly trained and supervised. Materials required are woefully inadequate. Lack of basic amenities. while the parents who can afford the false promises for the facilities the private schools offer have options to choose, those who approach the public sector have no choice but to face the poor quality. As the first step of applying developments in this field, a local authority can be formed to whom the parents can address their needs and aspirations directly, as well as their grievances and complaints. We should plan for a future when large-scale programs like ICDS could be decentralized down to the cluster level and given greater autonomy in functioning. It would allow greater community involvement and support along with greater curricular flexibility and diversity. The support in all forms, especially financial, should be received from the governance. Above all, it should be assured by concerned authorities that the most marginalized section of the society are not deprived of the facilities of pre-primary education. Let me summarize the session. In this unit, a glimpse on the importance of pre-primary education, its current stage in our country, and factors regarding the practical difficulties in universalizing it is dealt with. The habits and attitude towards life are formed and get rooted in behavior during the childhood of a person. Hence, proper guidance and corrections are inevitable during that period. To sum up, the ECC policy should have universal access, equity, and strengthening capacity. All these factors are considered to be interdependent and complementary to each other. Unless ECC is of acceptable quality, affordable, and available to all, there can be no access to it. Education received in early childhood can raise the productivity of individuals, the workforce, and society in a large scale. This can, in turn, reduce the lifetime inequality if reaching to the grassroots level and upbring the myriad marginalized part of the society. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. What is the significance of early childhood or pre-primary education? What are the steps taken by the government towards promoting the early childhood education? Explain in 4 or 5 sentences. Which department of Government of India deals with the pre-primary education? What steps are being taken by the government to promote it? Which are the available means of pre-primary education in India at present? What are the impediments experienced in the accessibility of pre-primary education to the different classes of society? What are the suggested steps to be taken in order to expedite the development of pre-primary education in India? Now, you can go through the reference books for further understanding. The first 5 years, a critical perspective of early childhood care and education in India, authored by Kaul V. 1998, Sage Publications, New Delhi. Thank you for watching the program. We can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.